The stage lights dimmed, and the entire studio seemed to fall silent. In that hush, a teenage boy stepped into the spotlight, his hands trembling slightly as he clutched the microphone. He was no celebrity, no seasoned performer, just an ordinary 16-year-old with an extraordinary story. His name was Ethan, and though he looked calm, his eyes carried the weight of something deeper, something unsaid. When Simon Cowell asked his usual question, "What brings you here today?" Ethan took a moment before answering. His voice cracked softly, "I'm here to sing a tribute to my dad." The audience immediately leaned forward, sensing that this performance was not going to be just another song, it was going to be a story told through pain, love, and loss. Ethan's father had been his biggest supporter, the man who taught him to dream big even when life felt small. But a tragic accident had taken him away only a year ago. Since then, Ethan had struggled with grief, silence, and sleepless nights, until this very moment, when he finally chose to speak through music. As the judges exchanged glances, something shifted in the air. There was no flashy intro, no background dancers, just this young boy, standing on a stage bigger than any he'd ever known, about to sing a song that meant everything. Amanda Holden whispered, "You can do this," under her breath. The crowd quieted, and as the music began to play, a gentle piano melody filled the air, soft, tender, almost like a heartbeat. Ethan closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and began to sing. The first line came out fragile, almost breaking under the weight of emotion. His voice quivered, but not from fear, from truth. Each lyric was a fragment of a memory, a father teaching his son how to ride a bike, a laughter echoing through the house, a final goodbye that came too soon. The entire auditorium sat frozen, listening not just to a performance, but to a soul speaking in its purest form. Ethan's voice carried something that no vocal training could ever create, pain turned into beauty. Simon, who had heard thousands of singers, leaned forward in his chair, eyes fixed on the young performer as if trying to understand how someone so young could sound so timeless. With every note, the room grew heavier with emotion. The background screen began to show dim golden lights, resembling stars, a subtle tribute that seemed to mirror the memory of Ethan's father watching over him. People in the audience began wiping their eyes. Even Ant and Dec, watching from backstage, were visibly moved. It wasn't just that Ethan sang well, it was the vulnerability, the honesty in his trembling voice, the way he refused to hide his grief behind perfection. When he reached the chorus, his voice cracked beautifully on a high note, and instead of shying away, he leaned into it, letting the imperfection become part of the story. It was raw, it was real, and it was unforgettable. When the final chord faded, silence filled the entire hall. No one dared to clap, not yet. It was the kind of silence that demanded respect, that followed something too beautiful to interrupt. Ethan looked down, tears streaming down his cheeks. For a moment, it seemed like time had stopped. Then suddenly, the entire audience rose to their feet, clapping through tears, cheering his name. The ovation went on for minutes. Even the judges were standing, visibly emotional. Amanda wiped her tears with a tissue. Alicia Dixon put her hand over her heart, whispering, "That was one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard." Simon, known for his stoicism, sat quietly for a few moments before speaking. His voice was softer than usual, filled with genuine emotion. "Ethan," he said, "I've seen thousands of auditions, but very few that feel this real. You didn't just sing, you brought him back for all of us. That takes courage beyond your years." David Walliams added, "You reminded us why music exists in the first place, to heal, to remember, to love." The audience cheered again, and Ethan smiled through his tears, whispering a simple, "Thank you." That moment wasn't about competition or fame, it was about connection, about finding meaning through heartbreak. Behind that powerful performance was a story that only a few knew. Ethan and his father, Daniel, had shared a deep bond through music. Daniel wasn't a professional musician, but he always carried his old acoustic guitar around, teaching Ethan chords and harmonies since he was 5. Their evenings were filled with laughter, songs, and dreams of someday performing together. But fate had other plans. A car accident one stormy night took Daniel's life instantly, leaving Ethan shattered. For months, he couldn't touch a guitar. Every melody reminded him of his loss. His mother often found him sitting in silence, staring at the instrument they used to share. But one night, while going through his father's belongings, Ethan found a note tucked inside the guitar case. It read, "Keep singing, son. No matter what." Those 4 words became his strength. Slowly, he started singing again, each song a way to speak to his Father in heaven. When Britain's Got Talent announced auditions in his city, Ethan hesitated. But his mother encouraged him, saying, "This is what your dad would have wanted." The song he performed wasn't just any song, it was one they had written together years ago, a simple ballad about love and hope. He had never sung it publicly before. Standing on that stage, with millions watching, he wasn't performing for fame, he was fulfilling a promise. Just when Ethan thought the moment was over, Amanda looked at her fellow judges with tears still glistening in her eyes. She whispered something to Simon, who nodded silently. Then, Amanda reached out and pressed the golden buzzer. The confetti exploded into the air, golden and glowing, as if the heavens themselves were celebrating. Ethan covered his face in disbelief as the crowd erupted into cheers. He fell to his knees, overwhelmed by emotion. The judges ran onto the stage to hug him, and Amanda whispered, "Your dad would be so proud of you." The scene was magical, gold dust falling like blessings, the audience chanting his name, and Ethan standing in the center of it all, crying, smiling, and finally, healing. For millions watching at home, it wasn't just another TV moment, it was a reminder that love never dies. Simon later said backstage, there was something spiritual about that performance. It wasn't just a song. It was a message. Overnight, Ethan became a global sensation. His performance trended across social media platforms, and fans worldwide shared their own stories of loss and healing. But for Ethan, none of it mattered as much as one quiet thought that crossed his heart. "Dad, I did it." Weeks after the audition, Ethan returned to the stage for the semifinals, performing another tribute, this time a hopeful song about moving forward. Though he didn't win the competition, he won something far greater: hearts around the world. His story inspired countless others who had lost loved ones to find strength through creativity. Music producers reached out, wanting to help him record his debut single, but Ethan kept his purpose clear. "I just want my songs to help people the way they helped me," he said in an interview. A year later, Ethan released an album titled, "For Dad," filled with songs written from the heart, dedicated to the memory of the man who taught him to believe. The album topped charts not because of fame, but because of truth. Every lyric, every chord carried the spirit of that first performance, the trembling voice of a teenager who turned pain into poetry. On the anniversary of his father's passing, Ethan returned to the Britain's Got Talent stage, performing once again under the same lights, the same spotlight, but this time, stronger, smiling. As he sang the final note, he looked up and whispered, "Thank you, Dad." The audience stood once more, many in tears, realizing that they weren't just watching a singer. They were witnessing love made eternal.